We want to thank our partner, AvaSure. Over 1,100 hospitals are using AvaSure's virtual care platform to engage with patients, optimize staffing, and seamlessly blend remote and in-person treatment at scale. Drive measurable outcomes and augment clinicians with an AI-powered solution that deeply integrates into your clinical workflows. AvaSure offers virtual care solutions supported by a secure, scalable infrastructure that helps you to lead your organization into a future where cutting-edge technology and compassionate care converge. For more information, check them out at thisweekhealth.com/AvaSure. Today on Newsday.
So when I think about the future, one of the things I spend a lot of time thinking about is a future where AI models work together without humans having to bridge the gap.
My name is Bill Russell. I'm a former CIO for a 16-hospital system and creator of This Week Health, where we are dedicated to transforming healthcare one connection at a time. Newsday discusses the breaking news in healthcare with industry experts. Now, let's jump right in.
All right, here we are from HIMSS 2025 out in Vegas. I'm here with Jacob Hansen, the Chief Product Officer for AvaSure, and it's Newsday. So we're going to talk about the news, and we're hanging out in the AvaSure booth. Welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
This is our first time doing it in person.
In person.
I'm not sure it'll be all that different, but...
We've had a lot of fun on the virtual options. So.
We have. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and HIMSS went through their struggles through the pandemic and other things. They had a significant drop-off. Before I give you my impression, I'm curious what your impression has been so far of the conference.
I'm just blown away by the number of people.
Yeah, I mean,
even before COVID, coming to HIMSS, you'd have some areas of the conference that were busy, but it's just an ocean of traffic. I've been really blown away. And you know what I think is most important is the number of organizations who are using this as a central point to come and really have meaty discussions about partnership, about new relationships between health system and vendor, really get into roadmap conversations. That's stuff that, in my experience before, it wasn't so targeting. So it's been great.
The number of people has really surprised me.
Yeah.
So I went to the opening session this morning and listened to that. I looked at the AI session yesterday. There had to be 1,000 people at the AI session. Not a surprise.
Yeah, of course.
What do you expect to see from AI? I'm looking at this thing here. You guys have a new virtual care assistant and has a persona, has a name. I feel like that's going to be a Hal Wolf joke that we're going to have a bingo game and see if you can find 10 booths that don't talk about AI.
Oh, it's impossible. There's no way. I honestly don't believe you could find 10. It's everywhere. Maybe some of the consulting booths, but...
Oh, no, they're still talking about AI.
Yeah.
So what do you think is going to be the key things? We haven't had a chance to really walk around the booths. You've done a couple of hosted buyer meetings so far. Those seem to be really well received, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would say, whether it's hosted buyer sessions or separate meetings that our customers have requested, everywhere, every conversation we have is pretty AI heavy. And I think the thing that I think all of us in the industry are really anxious to find over the coming months is the balance between augmentation and automation. It's a really consistent refrain. Human in the loop. When do we need them? When are there cases where we keep them out of it because we're not wasting their time? We're trying to get the right caregiver to the right place. And I think really being clear and honest about maturity of AI models and what they should be able to achieve and where they need to grow more.
So one of the things I like to do with people is, from a leadership standpoint, I have this principle where I spend about 50% of my time right here. So I'm present, about 30%, next 6 months, things I can affect, but I have to get done. And then I spend some time out, like three to 5 years out. And the reason I do that is it gives me clarity on things I should be doing today. You don't have to steer the wheel real tight to get to somewhere you're going in 5 years. I want to talk to you about the pace of AI, where it's going, what we're seeing. One of the things I'm talking to people about is at this pace and the idea that they're going to start creating these models that are more narrow and specific, and they're going to get better at a very specific thing, like the human brain works. And so you can have a front-end chatbot, if you will, when it comes in there and says, all right, I'm going to dish this over to oncology, or I'm going to dish this over to a nurse practitioner. Right? And essentially, these AI agents will act as such and give information out. I think in 3 to 5 years, we could see that from here. We could see potentially interactions with the health system where each health system is going to have their own persona. And you have, what's the name of your persona?
Vicky.
You have Vicky up here, but I think you're going to have Cedar-Sinai is going to have Joe, and this one's going to have Betty, and whatever.
Yeah, to be honest, that's part of what we're preparing for is, yeah, she's Vicky today, but Vicky needs to be ready to be wearing health system branded apparel. We can give her a name on behalf of a health system, right? All of those things.
Yeah, and 3 to 5 years from now, I could see Medicare and other payers saying, look, we are going to reimburse for certain medical events that happen strictly through AI, and because you're investing in this infrastructure and this architecture, and it's keeping people out of the hospital. It's driving down the cost of healthcare in general.
Yeah,
especially Medicare. I could see them going, hey, this is better for us long term. Do you see that same thing, 3 to 5?
So when I think about the future, one of the things I spend a lot of time thinking about is a future where AI models work together without humans having to bridge the gap. So there's plenty of scenarios where you could imagine that across the care continuum, not just in the hospital, but from the doctor's office to an urgent care to an ED in the hospital, post-discharge, that AI models are the conclusions, the decision enablement, right? Decision support from AI to AI. It's not just decision support for clinicians, but it's these things working in concert that allow clinicians to then be doing just the things that make the biggest difference in providing care. And you could see a setting where you're now having AI that's thinking about care gaps and access to care and quality indicators and remote monitoring, all these things coming together.
The CEO for NVIDIA said he sees AI becoming the new HR for AI agents operating across the entire system.
Exactly.
Yeah, when he said that, I was like, that's really fascinating, because they're going to come to IT and they're going to say, look, we need an agent. It looks like this, interacts with, maybe it's voice enabled, maybe it's not voice enabled, maybe it's just taking feeds from something and it's making decisions and moving it on. Once people get the hang of this new kind of agent operating within the workflow, I think the sky's the limit in terms of how people think about these.
Yeah, think about the number of workflows in healthcare that involve triage by some sort of coordinator, right? Somebody who's coordinating caseload, somebody who's coordinating response to a patient's requests, somebody who's coordinating where a patient goes and when and why, right? We've got all of this more manual work, and we struggle to keep up that pace as an industry. In what way do agents displace all of this coordination, so to speak?
So that's bringing the 5 years down to the next 6 months. The next 6 months, the question is, where do we put agents? How do we keep agents, is managed the right word, in check? How do we keep them from making mistakes?
I feel like this is age of experimentation, right? The only way we're going to get to smart management of AI-driven tools and agents is if we are working together, vendors and health systems in partnership, to conduct experiments workflow at a time, use case at a time, and being mindful of what we see. And then when we start to see outcomes in this particular workflow and another one, and we can connect them together, then that's where the magic's going to happen.
That's really interesting. What do you expect to see on the floor today? Like, where are we at today?
On the floor today, boy, feel like, especially as it relates to how we work with the rest of the market at AvaSure, it's really all about interconnected workflow. It's amazing. I feel like we've been talking about that as an industry for 20 years.
It's like interoperability.
And yet we're still trying to figure it out. When you think about smart room, what does smart room even mean? Smart hospital room, right? Okay, that's a lot of interconnected things. And I think every vendor is going to want to try and put their best foot forward to the market to say, here's why we're the right platform for this part of that smart room story, and why we're going to help create that experience for health systems the best way possible.
I think what we're going to see is a lot of new solutions around age-old problems, interoperability, access, cost of care, physician burnout, and those kind of things. And they're going to organize around those things and say, hey, look, AI can solve this. But my coaching, I'm curious what your coaching would be. My coaching to people who are buyers of this is to think in terms of a system. So you don't want to implement 70 different AI systems and then go, oh my gosh, like these don't really work together. So think in terms of a system is probably the first thing. The second is understand what AI actually means. What are you looking for AI to do? Because there is, whenever I'm talking to a real nerd around this, well, so machine learning is a subset of...
Yeah, exactly. It's a Venn diagram.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, But if you're a buyer, you should understand those things. What kind of algorithms are you using? How do those algorithms get better with time, with more data streaming across it? Does it get better? Or is this just a traditional algorithm-based kind of thing? Are you tapping into LLMs? If you're a buyer spending millions of dollars and you don't understand conceptually what you're buying, I get a little concerned that we're going to make very costly mistakes.
I like what you said in terms of giving advice about choosing the right partners, the right platform. What I would say is, yes, choose your partners based on vision, but only do that in a case where you've got a partner who can help you start with an ROI to build from. You've got to have a beachhead. You got to have a place to begin. And all the AI in the world that you're willing to experiment with is great, as long as there's a place where you can begin from that you know you can count on to produce an outcome.
It's interesting because being in this setting, you tend to forget that healthcare, from a margin standpoint, is under pressure.
Yeah.
They're looking at changes that are going on in Washington right now, and they're going, we're not getting more money. The reimbursement's going down, it's not going up. It's the general feeling. Medicaid's going to be redone. And so they're sitting there going, your concept of where you start is absolutely right. It's got to be something that delivers ROI out of the chute. It used to be, we could say, and this becomes one of the tougher ones, because we used to say, this is for clinician satisfaction, this is clinician burnout. We've had trouble to quantify that. Now, some people will hear this and they'll get mad at me, and they usually do when I say this, but I'm like, okay, start quantifying. Like, how many people did we lose because we didn't have the state-of-the-art fill in the blank? How many people?
Yeah.
I think that's starting to become more real. Because let's just take ambient clinical listening, for example. I was talking to somebody yesterday who said he's interviewing physicians, and the physicians are asking that question. What are your tools? What is available to me when I sign on to join with you in terms of the technology tool set? Because I don't want to go back to clicking on the keyboard.
Yeah, I think this is really an important question for everybody here, is the philosophy of openness for access and for connectivity versus protecting a particular workflow by keeping it somewhat walled off. From our perspective, everybody we talk to, we're being clear. The future demands, if we're going to be the virtual door to the room, we better be capable of allowing third-party algorithms and applications to use our devices as their own. We've got to be able to do that.
So you want them to look for open systems.
And we want to partner with other systems who are the same, so that our platform and those platforms can take advantage of each other's endpoints.
All right, so let's take your platform, your first example. There's a bunch of different things. There's the video feed itself, there's the data that's coming, there's the outcome from your analytics or your AI, and that kind of stuff. Are you saying that essentially somebody else could plug in and grab?
Yeah, you already mentioned ambient clinical documentation. Because the things we do in ambient listening are tied to operational triage at the bedside, things like that. We're not going to be doing anything with large language models connected to clinical language. That's a whole different ball of wax. So we will let a third party, their AI, consume audio from our microphone. They can interrogate that. They can take unstructured data, turn it into structured, send it into EMR, right? They can do what they will based on their agreement with that health system. And so we just become an endpoint that's accessible with health system's permission through a secure RESTful API for any party that wants to do that. And that's why I say we're looking across the show floor for other organizations that have that same philosophy of secure openness.
Absolutely. What else do you expect to see? We'll give you the last word. What else do you want to talk about?
I feel like it's a bit cliche, but I think that we're excited to see how the industry scratches at specific metrics that are deemed acceptable to finance business partners and health systems for workforce productivity. It's one thing to say, oh, our system will deliver on these workforce productivity outcomes. And we're all talking about productivity. It's everywhere. But what kind of hypotheses are we starting with? And how are systems willing to come together to share an outcome? What value do we attribute to different systems and how they contribute to those productivity outcomes? I think that's going to be a really fascinating thing to see.
It is going to be fascinating. Jake, always a pleasure.
It was fun.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Newsday. There's a lot happening in our industry, and while Newsday covers interesting stuff, another way to stay informed is by subscribing to our daily insights email, which delivers expertly curated health IT news straight to your inbox. Sign up at thisweekhealth.com/news. Thanks for listening. That's all for now.